She washed soldiers' clothes by day and plotted revolutions by night. She defied Napoleon, spied for France, and rose from the slums to a duchess. This is the unbelievable true story of Madame Sans-Gêne, a woman who lived louder and bolder than any general. Hi everyone, it's me, and welcome back to the channel where we bring history to life for you. Today we're off to 18th century France, a time of powdered wigs and philosophical debates, of royal extravagance and deep-rooted inequality. But above all, it's a world of change. As the French Revolution explodes, our story begins. In the heart of Alsace, born Catherine Hubscher in 1753. Her story began humbly. The daughter of poor peasants, her early years were marked by financial struggle and social constraint. As a young woman, she found work as a laundress, cleaning and pressing the uniforms of soldiers stationed nearby. It was a tough job, one that demanded physical strength and endurance as she scrubbed and boiled. She would have heard the rumble of gossip carried on the wind. The soldiers would speak of the growing unrest in Paris, of Enlightenment ideas and the call for equality. And as they shared their stories, so did Catherine dream. In 1774, Catherine's life took a significant turn when she met Lefebvre, a sergeant in the French army. He was a decade older than her, a veteran of the 7 Years' War with a sharp wit and an even sharper uniform. Their love story, however, wasn't a fairy tale. Lefebvre was already married. Though his wife had passed away, the law wouldn't grant him a divorce. So Catherine, unable to wed him, bore his child out of wedlock. Within a few years, she had 2 children to care for. And though Lefebvre provided what help he could, their small home was always filled with the threat of hunger. But Catherine, ever resourceful, found a way to keep food on the table. And this is where the story truly begins. Catherine began to wash the uniforms of a group of National Guardsmen, a relatively new military force tasked with defending the city. But these men weren't just soldiers. They were volunteers, patriots answering the call for freedom. They spoke passionately of liberty, of fraternity, of a new France that would emerge from the ashes of the old. And Catherine listened, her mind opening to a world beyond the laundry room. Then came the revolution. The storming of the Bastille on July 14th, 1789, was a pivotal moment. It was the symbolic decapitation of the old regime, a clear signal that the times were changing, and Catherine, along with Lefebvre, recognized this shift. Soon enough, Lefebvre, spurred on by his own ideals and Catherine's infectious zeal, left his post as an officer in the Royalist army and joined the revolutionaries. Under the new flag of the French Republic, he quickly rose through the ranks, becoming first an adjutant, then a captain. Their humble home was no longer just a place of refuge, it was a hub of revolutionary activity. Catherine, ever the pragmatist, continued her work as a laundress by day. But once the soldiers were gone, she and Lefebvre would meet with other revolutionaries, plotting the future of France around their kitchen table. With the outbreak of war with Austria and Prussia, Lefebvre was called to arms, and he left for the front lines, leaving Catherine behind to manage their farm. But this separation only strengthened their bond. When Lefebvre was injured in battle, it was Catherine who nursed him back to health, tending to his wounds and bolstering his spirits. His comrades spoke of a mysterious woman who visited the wounded, bringing food, medicine, and news of the revolution at home. And though Catherine played down her role, her contributions were significant. During those long days spent alone on the farm, Catherine would attend meetings of local revolutionaries, discussing strategy and spreading the word of the Republic. She also kept a close eye on the Austrian and Prussian troops, who often used the area as a supply route. Her sharp eyes and even sharper tongue soon made her an asset to the revolution. As news of her exploits spread, people started calling her Madame Sans-Gêne, a nickname that highlighted her boldness and fearlessness. In 1792, Lefebvre, having recovered from his injury, returned home. His rank increased to that of chef de bataillon. Life was busy, but the couple found moments amidst the chaos to add another member to their family, a third child, a baby girl named Adele. As the revolution gained momentum, Lefebvre was sent to Paris with orders to defend the city against the invading Austrians. Once again, he left Catherine in charge of their farm, and once again she proved equal to the task. But as the weeks turned into months, the tide of war began to turn. The French were losing ground, and the threat of invasion loomed large. It was during this time that Catherine's resourcefulness and daring really came to the fore. Realizing the strategic importance of communication, she began acting as an informal spy, ferrying messages between her husband and other revolutionary leaders. Risking her own safety, she would leave the safety of the farm, slipping into enemy encampments to gather intelligence and relay it back to the city. It was a dangerous game, one that demanded both courage and cunning, but Catherine was equal to the challenge. Her ability to move freely within the enemy camps, disguised as a simple farmer's wife, made her an invaluable asset. Moreover, her conversations with the soldiers were never just small talk. Catherine was well versed in revolutionary ideals, and she used every opportunity to spread the message of liberty, chipping away at the loyalty of the enemy troops and winning them over to the cause. As the war dragged on, Catherine's legend grew. Stories of her bravery and ingenuity spread among the troops, turning her into a symbol of the revolution. By 1796, Lefebvre had risen to the rank of General de Brigade, and Catherine, now the unofficial spy of the revolution, was instrumental in helping him secure a key victory near Charleroi. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. When the French won the battle, securing their control over important supply routes, Lefebvre was commended for his strategic brilliance, but many whispered that his wife deserved a Medal of Valor too. However, not all was well. The revolution had taken a violent turn. Robespierre and his followers had seized power, and the guillotine was claiming its victims. Catherine and Lefebvre were staunch Jacobins, supporters of the revolution, and yet they feared the excesses of the regime. As the reign of terror intensified, they knew they had to act. In 1794, Lefebvre, using his influence, helped smuggle Robespierre's family out of Paris, saving them from the guillotine. After Robespierre's fall, however, this act of kindness nearly cost him his head. But Catherine, ever quick-witted, managed to convince the authorities of their loyalty to the revolution. Through her actions, she saved her husband's life and secured their place in the new France. Following the Thermidorian reaction, which marked the end of the Reign of Terror, Lefebvre was sent to take part in the campaign against the Dutch. Catherine, pregnant with her fourth child, decided to join him, traveling across Europe to be by her husband's side. There she assisted in supplying the troops, ensuring that they received the resources they needed to fight. It was during this time that Lefebvre was promoted again, this time to the rank of Marshal of France. With the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, however, things were set to change once again. By 1799, Napoleon had staged a coup d'état and established himself as the first consul of France. Lefebvre, despite being a supporter of Napoleon's early reforms, grew increasingly disillusioned with the first consul's consolidation of power. In 1804, when Napoleon crowned himself emperor, Lefebvre resigned from his position, choosing to retire rather than participate in the coronation ceremony. It was a difficult decision, one that went against the grain of Catherine's earlier political views. For much of the revolution, she had been a vocal supporter of the sans-culottes, the commoners who wanted a more radical restructuring of society. Yet here she was, aligning herself with a former military general who was effectively creating a new aristocracy. However, she never wavered in her support for her husband. When Napoleon offered Lefebvre the position of senator, Catherine accompanied him to Paris, entering the grand halls of the Senate, and later the Tuileries Palace. In the grand halls of power, she never forgot her roots. Catherine's frankness and humor were legendary. Once, while Napoleon was giving a speech, she leaned over to her neighbor and remarked loudly enough for the whole audience to hear, "He talks a lot, doesn't he? He looks like a big shot, doesn't he? But he's just a corporal. Remember that he was just a corporal." Another time, she got into a heated discussion with the Marchioness de Montejupiter, the emperor's mistress, about the quality of fabric used in a dress. Such was Catherine's audacity. Despite her controversial remarks, she became a fixture in Parisian society, attending parties and balls, always impeccably dressed. Her rise from a laundress to a member of high society was nothing short of spectacular. In 1806, she was officially ennobled, taking the title Duchess of Danzig. In 1814, after 20 years of marriage, Lefebvre passed away. Catherine, now a widow, continued to live a life of relative luxury, though she never quite forgot the hardships of her early life. She passed away in 1822, survived by her 4 children, her legacy living on in the stories that were told and retold about her life. Her story inspired numerous plays and novels, including a famous 1893 play by Victorien Sardou. It's a testament to Catherine's enduring appeal that she has remained a cultural icon. Her story reminds us that courage comes in many forms, that wit and authenticity can break through societal barriers, and that history, often biased towards the powerful, occasionally forgets its most fearless heroes. Today, we remember her as Madame Sans-Gêne, the woman who dared to speak her mind to kings and emperors, who navigated the treacherous waters of revolution and war, who rose from humble beginnings to become a duchess, not because of birthright or wealth, but because of her indomitable spirit. A big thank you to our supporters for making videos like this possible. To learn how you can support us, visit our support page. If you enjoyed this story, let us know by hitting like and subscribing. And be sure to leave us a comment. What historical rebel do you want us to cover next? We'll see you next time for more stories of history's unsung heroes.